The sound of breaking glass downstairs jolts me from my chemistry homework. Not the delicate tinkle of a dropped cup, but the violent crash of something being thrown. I know that sound too well lately. I want her gone by Friday. Frank's voice booms through the floorboards. I'm done playing nice about this. I'm 19, and I've learned to hold my breath during these conversations. My fingers curl around my pencil until my knuckles turn white, but I keep writing equations as if nothing's happening, as if my entire world isn't being dismantled, one argument at a time. She's my daughter, Mom says, her voice carrying that familiar tremor, the one that means she's already given up. We can't just throw her out. Your daughter. Frank spits the words like they're poison. Who's eating our food, taking up space, and bringing down the whole mood of this house? I've got a baby on the way, Sheila. A real family to think about. A real family. The words hit me like a physical blow. I've lived in this house since I was 4, long before Frank showed up with his perfect smile and empty promises. Now, at 7 months into Mom's pregnancy, he's finally showing his true colors. Linda said she'd take her, Mom offers weakly. Just until she finishes college, the pencil snaps in my grip. Aunt Linda's house. That woman runs her home like a military compound, complete with curfews and mandatory family dinners, where she lectures everyone about their life choices. Heavy footsteps thunder up the stairs. I barely have time to straighten up before my door flies open, banging against the wall. Frank fills the door frame, his face flushed red. Pack your bags, he says, not even looking at me directly. You're leaving Friday. This is my house too, I say, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. Grandmother left. Your grandmother left everything to your mother. Frank cuts me off. And your mother agrees with me, don't you, Sheila? Mom appears behind him, wringing her hands. Her eyes meet mine for a split second before darting away. It's just temporary, honey, until things settle down. Things? I stand up slowly. You mean until the baby comes? Until I'm completely erased from this family. Don't be dramatic, Frank scoffs. You're an adult now, time to stand on your own 2 feet. I look around my room, at the photos on the walls, the books on the shelves, the entire life I've built here. And if I refuse, Frank steps closer, lowering his voice. Then I'll have you removed, legally, your choice. Mom makes a small sound of protest, but she doesn't move to stop him. She never does anymore. I'll need more than 2 days, I say, fighting to keep my voice level, to pack everything. Take what you need for now. The rest can wait. Frank's tone suggests the rest might disappear if I don't move fast enough. Linda's expecting you Friday evening. They leave without another word, closing the door behind them. I sink onto my bed, my hands shaking as I pull out my phone and text Tina. It's happening. They're kicking me out. Her response comes quickly. OMG, what? Want me to come over? I stare at the message, thinking about Grandmother Margaret's last words to me before she died. Sometimes the best revenge is patience, dear. Watch, wait, and when the moment comes, strike true. I type back, no, I need to handle this myself. Standing up, I walk to my closet and pull out the small lockbox hidden behind my winter clothes. Inside is Grandmother's letter, the one I haven't shown anyone yet, the one that changes everything. You want me gone, Frank? I whisper to myself, running my fingers over the sealed envelope. Be careful what you wish for. Friday isn't going to go the way they expect. Not at all. Aunt Linda's house smells like artificial lavender and disappointment. She stands in her pristine foyer, clipboard in hand, as if I'm checking into a prison rather than moving in with family. Rule number 1, she says, tapping her pen against the paper. Curfew is 9 o'clock sharp. No exceptions. I shift my duffel bag on my shoulder, the weight of Grandmother's letter pressing against my hip through the hidden pocket. I have evening classes that end at 8:30. Then you'll need to run. Her lips twist into what might be a smile. Rule number 2, you'll participate in family dinner every evening at 6. That means being present and engaged, not hiding behind your phone. The clock on her wall ticks loudly in the silence as she continues down her list. Each rule feels like another bar in a cage. No visitors without prior approval, mandatory church attendance, weekly progress reports on my life goals. And of course, she adds, you'll contribute to household expenses. $300 monthly should cover it. My fingers curl into fists. Mom said, "Your mother isn't here." Linda's voice carries an edge sharp enough to cut. And frankly, given her poor judgment lately, I wouldn't put much stock in her promises. She leads me upstairs to what she calls my temporary accommodation. A narrow room that looks more like a closet with a window. The walls are bare, except for a cross above the single bed, and the desk barely has space for my laptop. "Dinner's in 30 minutes, she announces. "I expect you cleaned up and properly dressed. No jeans at the table." After she leaves, I pull out my phone to text Tina, but there's no signal. Of course, I move to the window and finally get one bar. "In hell, send help." The response comes quickly. "That bad?" Before I can reply, Linda's voice carries up the stairs. "Ariel, phone away and come help set the table." I stuff my phone in my pocket and head downstairs, where Linda's arranging plates with military precision. She hands me a stack of napkins without looking up. "Your mother called while you were unpacking," she says casually. "They're converting your old room into the nursery. Frank asked if you wanted any of your remaining things or if they should donate them." The napkins crumple in my grip. They can, and they are. She straightens a fork that was already perfectly aligned. "It's time to accept your new reality, Ariel. This attitude of yours won't serve you here." I force myself to smooth out the napkins, placing them beside each plate while my mind races. They're erasing me, piece by piece, thinking I'll just accept it, like Mom accepts everything Frank does. Linda's husband, George, arrives home just before 6, barely acknowledging my presence, before taking his seat at the head of the table. Linda serves some kind of casserole that tastes like cardboard and expectations. "So," George says between bites, "Linda tells me you're studying chemistry?" "Yes, waste of time," he interrupts. "Should be learning something practical, business maybe, or nursing, if you insist on science." Linda nods approvingly. "I've been saying that. All those student loans, for what? To mix chemicals in a lab?" "Actually," I say, keeping my voice steady, "Grandmother Margaret left money for my education. No loans needed." The silence that follows is deafening. Linda's fork scrapes against her plate with a sound like nails on a chalkboard. "That's not possible," she says finally. "Mother's estate was quite clear, was it?" I meet her gaze across the table. "Because Grandmother told me lots of interesting things before she died. About the estate, about the family, about you." Linda's face pales slightly, but she recovers quickly. "Well, clearly she was confused near the end. Now about your contribution to the household. I think I'll wait to discuss that until I've had a chance to review Grandmother's paperwork," I say, watching her reaction carefully. "All of it." She sets down her fork with a sharp click. "Go to your room. We'll discuss your attitude in the morning." I stand, gathering my plate. "Good night, Aunt Linda, Uncle George. Thank you for dinner." In my room, I finally pull out Grandmother's letter, running my fingers over the seal. Not yet, I think. The timing isn't right, but soon, very soon. My phone buzzes. Another text from Tina. "Need an escape plan?" I smile as I type back, "No, need a revenge plan." And I think I just found my first weakness to exploit. After 2 weeks of Linda's suffocating rules, I finally break the seal on Grandmother's letter. My hands tremble as I read it in the pre-dawn darkness, using my phone's flashlight under the covers like a child with a forbidden book. The truth hits like a physical blow. Legal documents fall from the envelope. Adoption papers, property deeds, bank statements, my name over and over, not just as a beneficiary, but as Margaret's legally adopted daughter. A knock startles me. I shove everything under my pillow as Linda opens the door without waiting for a response. "Why is your light on at 5 a.m.? She flicks on the overhead light. You're burning electricity I'm paying for. Actually, I say, heart pounding against my ribs, I think you'll find you're not paying for anything in this house. Her eyes narrow. Excuse me? Grandmother Margaret's name is still on all the utilities. And the mortgage. Isn't that strange? Linda's face does something complicated, like she's swallowing glass. You've been snooping. I've been investigating my inheritance. I pull out one of the documents. Did you know she adopted me? Legally. 3 years ago. The color drains from her face. That's impossible. She wouldn't, but she did. I stand up, finding strength in her uncertainty. And according to these papers, this house belongs to me. Linda snatches the document from my hand, scanning it frantically. These could be forged. You think you can just... Morning. A male voice calls from outside. Through the window, I see David, the next-door neighbor, collecting his newspaper. Linda freezes. David's a real estate lawyer, isn't he? I ask innocently. Maybe we should ask his opinion. This is ridiculous. Linda hisses, but her hands are shaking. You're just a child playing games. No, I'm Margaret's legally adopted daughter, and I have questions, like why you've been collecting rent from 3 tenants in grandmother's properties while telling Mom the buildings were empty. She takes a step back. How did you? I have her files, all of them, including the recordings. This is a bluff. I don't have recordings. But Linda's reaction tells me they exist somewhere. Her face goes from white to gray. What do you want? She whispers. First, breakfast. I'm thinking waffles. Then we'll discuss your new tenant, me, and my terms for keeping certain information private. You wouldn't dare expose. Try me. I meet her gaze steadily. Grandmother taught me a lot about patience and revenge. The sound of a car door makes us both turn. Through the window, I see Mom getting out of her SUV, one hand on her pregnant belly. Perfect timing, I say. Should we share the news about my adoption over breakfast? Linda grabs my arm, her nails digging in. Wait, just wait. We can discuss this privately, like you discussed things privately with Frank, convincing him that kicking me out was the only option. Her grip loosens in surprise. How did you? I know everything, Aunt Linda. Every scheme, every manipulation, every lie, another bluff. But her reaction confirms I'm hitting close to home. The question is, what are you willing to do to keep it all quiet? The doorbell rings. Linda looks like she might be sick. Better answer that, I say softly. And remember, I learned from the best about keeping secrets. Grandmother made sure of that. She backs away, clutching the adoption papers. This isn't over. No, I agree, watching her hurry downstairs. It's just beginning. I hear Mom's voice floating up from below, asking if I'm awake yet. Linda's response is too quiet to make out, but I can imagine her scrambling to maintain control. My phone buzzes. A text from Tina. Did you open it? I type back, yes, and it's better than we thought. Way better. The sound of Linda's forced cheerfulness drifts up the stairs as she invites Mom in for coffee. I smile, thinking of Grandmother's words in the letter. Power isn't about having control, dear. It's about making others believe you do. Time to show them exactly how well I learned that lesson. David catches me at the mailbox, his lawyer's briefcase swinging casually at his side. Interesting morning at the Thompson house, he says, nodding toward Linda's, my property. Saw your mom leaving in quite a state. I sort through the mail, keeping my voice neutral. Family drama. Must be. Linda's been making calls all day, mostly to her bank, from what I could hear through the fence. He pauses, studying me. You know, I handled some of your grandmother Margaret's estate work. My fingers freeze on an envelope. Did you? Smart woman, Margaret, always 10 steps ahead. He pulls out a business card, writes something on the back. If you need those adoption papers reviewed, my office hours are listed here. The other number's my cell. I take the card, turning it over. There's a time written on the back, 3 p.m. Thanks, I say, understanding the invitation. I might take you up on that. Inside, Linda's pacing the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. No, I need those records today. Yes, I understand it's irregular, but She spots me and ends the call abruptly. Going somewhere? She asks, eyeing my jacket. Class. I hold up David's card. And then a legal consultation. She sets the phone down with exaggerated care. You really want to do this? Air all our dirty laundry. You mean your dirty laundry? I lean against the door frame. Like what really happened to grandmother's jewelry collection? The one you told Mom was stolen. Her face tightens. You're playing a dangerous game. No, I'm ending one. Your game. I check my phone. Mom's probably wondering about our interesting breakfast conversation. Should I fill her in on what we discussed? Wait. Linda moves to block my path. What do you want? Money? The house? Name it. I study her desperate expression, remembering all the times she lorded her power over others. Over Mom, over me. I want everything, I say softly. Everything you took, everything you lied about, everything you thought you could get away with. You ungrateful little... Careful, I cut her off. Remember who owns these walls now. The front door opens. George, returning early from work. Linda's eyes widen in panic. Don't, she whispers. He doesn't know about the properties, about the money I've been keeping from him, I finish. Imagine that, secrets in a marriage. George appears in the kitchen doorway, frowning at the tension. Everything okay here? Perfect, I say brightly. Aunt Linda and I were just discussing inheritance law. Did you know? Nothing important, Linda interrupts. Ariel was leaving for class, weren't you? I shoulder my bag, enjoying her discomfort. We'll continue this later. Oh, and I invited Mom over for dinner. Hope that's okay, since it is my house now. I leave them in the kitchen, Linda's frantic explanation fading behind me. Outside, I check the time. 2 hours until my meeting with David. Just enough time to visit the bank, where grandmother kept her safe deposit box. The key was hidden in the adoption papers, along with a note. For when the truth becomes your weapon. My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. Linda called, said you're making strange claims. We need to talk. Another from Frank. Stop causing trouble, or there will be consequences. And finally, one from Tina. Holy shit, they're freaking out. What did you do? I smile, pocketing my phone. Without responding, let them stew in their uncertainty. Let them wonder what else I know, what evidence I have. Grandmother's voice echoes in my memory. Patience, dear one. The best revenge isn't swift or violent. It's watching them destroy themselves with their own fears. I head toward the bank, my steps light with purpose. Linda's desperate face, Frank's threats, Mom's confusion, all pieces falling into place. But David's involvement adds a wild card I hadn't expected. What else did grandmother tell him? What other surprises wait in that safe deposit box? The weight of the key in my pocket feels like possibility, like power, like justice, or maybe just revenge. Right now, I'm not sure I care which. The safe deposit box contains exactly 3 items: a USB drive, a small leather journal, and a silver locket I remember from grandmother's neck. My hands shake as I plug the drive into my laptop in David's office. Your grandmother mentioned you might come looking for this, David says, closing his office door. She was very specific about the timing. Files populate my screen, hundreds of them. Financial records, property deeds, photographs, years of Linda's careful manipulation, documented in meticulous detail. She knew, I whisper. All this time she knew what Linda was doing. Margaret knew everything. David leans against his desk, including what Frank and Linda were planning for you. A video file catches my eye. Linda and Frank in what looks like a coffee shop, dated 3 months before grandmother's death. I click play, and their voices fill the room. Once Margaret's gone, we move the girl out. Frank says, Linda gets the properties, I get the house, everyone wins. Except Ariel, Linda replies, laughing. The image blurs as tears fill my eyes. They planned this before she died. My phone buzzes, Mom calling again. I silence it, but not before seeing her text. Frank's furious, says you're making threats. Please stop this. Your grandmother left you a choice, David says quietly. Read the journal. The leather book feels heavy in my hands. Inside, grandmother's elegant script fills the pages. I flip to the last entry, dated a week before she died. My dearest Ariel, by now you know the truth. You have two paths before you, justice or vengeance. Choose carefully. One will heal you, the other will hollow you. The evidence is yours to use as you see fit. But remember, some victories cost more than defeats. A knock interrupts my reading. Through David's office window, I see Linda standing in the reception area, looking desperate. I didn't expect her to crack this quickly, David muses. She hasn't. I slip the journal into my bag. She's here to threaten, not surrender. Linda bursts in without waiting for permission. Whatever she's told you, she says. To David, there's more to the story. Like the missing insurance money? I ask. Or the forged documents for grandmother's properties. You don't understand what you're doing. Linda's voice shakes. Frank has connections. He can make things very difficult. Are you threatening my client? David straightens. Suddenly, every inch the lawyer. I'm trying to protect her. Linda's composure cracks. Frank's not who you think. He's dangerous when he's crossed. A chill runs down my spine. What do you mean, dangerous? Ask your mother about the accident. Linda's eyes dart between us. The one that really killed your father. The room seems to tilt. My father died of a heart attack. Is that what Sheila told you? Linda laughs bitterly. God, you're as naive as she was. Frank had debts. Your father knew too much. You're lying. But my voice sounds hollow. Check the USB, Linda says. Margaret had proof. Why do you think she adopted you? She was trying to protect you from him. My phone buzzes again. Tina this time. Your mom just showed up at my place looking for you. She's crying. Time's up, Linda, David says firmly. I suggest you leave before I call security. She backs toward the door. Just be careful, Ariel. Some secrets are buried for a reason. After she leaves, I sit heavily in David's guest chair. Could she be telling the truth? About Frank? David hands me a file from his desk. Your grandmother thought so. That's why she left you this. Inside is a police report I've never seen before. My father's name, Frank's, a suspicious accident that was never fully investigated. My revenge against Linda suddenly seems small, petty even. What if I've been focusing on the wrong enemy all along? What do? I whisper. David's expression is grave. That depends. Do you want justice or vengeance? I touch the locket in my pocket, remembering grandmother's words about choices and costs. The weight of her legacy, both the truth she uncovered and the weapons she left me, settles heavily on my shoulders. My phone lights up with another text from Mom. Please come home. We need to talk about your father. Sometimes I realize revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about exposing the truth, no matter who gets burned in the process, even if that someone is you. I find Mom waiting in Tina's apartment, her face streaked with tears. The police report burns in my bag like a live coal. Did you know? The words come out before I can stop them. About Dad's accident? She flinches as if I'd struck her. Who told you? Does it matter? Did you know Frank was involved? It's not that simple. Her hands flutter to her pregnant belly, protective. You don't understand what it was like back then. Then explain it to me. I remain standing while she sits, needing the height, the distance. Explain how you married the man who, he protected us. Her outburst echoes in the small room. Your father's gambling debts. There were dangerous people involved. Frank made it all go away. By making Dad go away, I didn't know. Her voice cracks. Not until after. Frank said it was an accident, that he tried to help. A key turns in the lock, Tina returning. But the door opens to reveal Frank instead, his bulk filling the door frame. My heart stutters. How did you get in? I back away instinctively. He holds up a key. Your friend should be more careful about where she leaves her spare. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. We need to talk about these accusations you're throwing around. Frank, please, Mom starts, but he cuts her off with a look. I've been patient, he says, closing the door behind him. Tolerant. But you're becoming a problem, Ariel, just like your father was. Is that a threat? I reach for my phone, but it's not in my pocket. I'd left it charging in Tina's room. It's a fact. He moves further into the room. You think you've got it all figured out with your grandmother's evidence and Linda's confession. But you're missing the bigger picture. The picture where you killed my father? His laugh is cold. Your father killed himself. I just helped things along, like I'm going to help you understand your place in this family. Frank, Mom struggles to stand. You promised. I promised to protect our family. He snaps. That's what I'm doing. Your daughter's threatening everything we've built by exposing the truth. Truth? He pulls something from his jacket, a familiar leather journal. My blood runs cold. You mean like the truth in here, about how your precious grandmother was embezzling from her own company, how she manipulated everyone around her? You're lying. Am I? He tosses the journal onto the coffee table. Check the last pages, the ones she didn't want you to see. My hands shake as I pick it up. There, in grandmother's handwriting, are details of financial transactions, hidden accounts, manipulated records. She wasn't protecting you, Frank says softly. She was protecting herself, using you as a pawn, just like I used Linda, just like everyone uses everyone else. No. But the evidence is there in black and white. You want revenge? He spreads his arms. Go ahead, expose everything. But remember, the truth burns everyone it touches, including you, including your mother, including your grandmother's precious legacy. Mom's crying quietly now, one hand pressed to her mouth. The weight of it all, the lies, the manipulations, the generations of betrayal, crashes down on me. What do you want? My voice sounds hollow, defeated. Sign over the properties, all of them. Walk away from this vendetta before it destroys what's left of your family. He pulls out papers from his jacket. Your mother needs peace. Your sibling deserves a fresh start. The papers blur before my eyes. Everything I thought I knew, everyone I thought I could trust, all of it built on lies. Don't, Mom whispers. Please, Ariel, don't. Quiet, Frank commands, and she falls silent, just like always. I stare at the papers, at Frank's expectant smile, at Mom's tears. Grandmother's last words echo in my mind. Some victories cost more than defeats. But what about the cost of surrender? My phone chirps distantly from Tina's room. Probably David wondering why I missed our follow-up meeting. David, who has copies of everything. David, who knows things even Frank doesn't know yet. I need time, I say, hating how weak my voice sounds. To think. Frank's smile widens. You have until tomorrow. Choose wisely. He leads Mom out, leaving me alone with the journal, the papers, and the crushing weight of understanding that sometimes the greatest betrayals come from those we trusted most. But maybe, just maybe, that's also true for salvation. The USB drive feels heavy in my pocket as I walk into the family meeting Frank arranged. Everyone's gathered in grandmother's old study. Mom, Frank, Linda, even George. David waits outside with copies of everything, ready to act if I don't check in within an hour. Have you made your decision? Frank asks, gesturing to the paper on the desk. I pick up the pen, turning it slowly. Actually, I have some documents of my own to share first. Linda shifts nervously in her chair. Ariel, think carefully about... Oh, I have. I connect the USB drive to grandmother's old computer, still sitting in its place of honor. Did you know she never turned this off? Just left it running, recording everything. Frank's smile falters. What are you talking about? The screen flickers to life, showing security footage of this very room. Dated 3 days before grandmother died. I found something interesting, I say, pressing play. Watch. On screen, Frank and Linda stand arguing with grandmother. The audio is crystal clear. You can't prove anything, Frank says. I can prove everything, grandmother replies. The money laundering, the accident, all of it. Did you really think I wouldn't protect my granddaughter? Present-day Frank lunges for the computer, but I'm faster, backing away with the remote. Keep watching. It gets better. Linda's voice emerges from the speakers. "We had a deal, Margaret. I keep quiet about Frank's involvement in the accident. And you—" "Enough," Frank shouts, but Mom raises her hand. "Let it play," she says quietly. "I need to hear this." The footage continues, revealing layer after layer of manipulation. Frank's schemes, Linda's complicity, the truth about my father's death. Mom's hands cover her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "You're not the only one who can gather evidence," I tell Frank. "Grandmother taught me well." "Evidence of what?" He tries to sound confident, but his eyes keep darting to the screen. "Some edited footage? Proves nothing." "Maybe not alone." I pull out my phone, showing the email I'd queued up. "But combined with these financial records David helped me uncover, the police might be interested." "You wouldn't dare." Linda stands, panic in her eyes. "Think about your mother, your sibling." "I am thinking about them." I look at Mom. "That's why I already sent everything to the district attorney." 10 minutes ago, the room erupts in chaos. Frank lunges for me again, but George surprisingly steps in his way. "Don't," George says. "It's over." Linda collapses into her chair. "How long have you known about you embezzling from our joint accounts?" George's voice is ice. "Long enough. I was just waiting to see who would expose you first." Mom stands slowly, one hand on her belly. "All this time, you both knew how my husband really died." "Sheila," Frank starts, but she cuts him off. "Don't." She turns to me. "The recordings. Are there more?" I nod. "Grandmother kept everything. She knew. She knew someday we'd need the truth." Frank's phone buzzes, a text message that drains the remaining color from his face. "They're here." Through the window, we can see police cars pulling up to the house. "You know what the funny thing is," I say, watching Frank's world crumble. "I was ready to sign those papers this morning, to give up everything just to keep the peace." "Then why didn't you?" Linda asks quietly. "Because I found one last recording, from the day before Grandmother died." I press play one final time. Grandmother's voice fills the room. "Remember, Ariel, revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about protecting those who remain. Choose truth over peace, justice over vengeance. That's my real legacy to you." The sound of footsteps on the stairs grows louder. Frank looks desperately for an escape route, but there isn't one. "Goodbye, Frank," Mom says softly. "I should have chosen truth a long time ago." The door opens, and justice, delayed but not denied, finally arrives. I watch them lead Frank and Linda away, feeling not triumph, but a heavy sort of peace. Grandmother was right. The truth burns everyone it touches. But sometimes, that's exactly what's needed to forge something new from the ashes. The house feels different as I pack up Grandmother's study. Each object holds a memory now. The computer that revealed the truth, the desk where Frank signed his confession, the chair where Mom finally broke her silence about Dad's death. David helps me sort through the last of the papers. The DA says Frank's plea deal includes full restitution. Money can't fix everything. I place Grandmother's silver locket in a special box, the one thing I'm keeping. Mom's not speaking to me. "She will," he says, "but we both know it might take years." The truth about Dad broke something in her that even time might not heal. The doorbell rings. Linda's daughter Emma, here to collect her mother's remaining belongings before the house sells. I find her in the foyer, looking small and lost. "I'm sorry," I say, meaning it. "About everything." She nods stiffly. "Mom told me. She told me why Grandmother Margaret did it, why she set all this up." "Did what?" Emma pulls out a familiar leather journal, not the one Frank had, but another, older one. She knew about the affair between Mom and Frank years ago, before he married your mother. The world tilts slightly. "What?" "They were planning something together. Back then. Something about the company, but Grandmother caught them, and," Emma's voice breaks, "she gave them a choice. Stop, or she'd make sure they destroyed each other eventually." I think about all the evidence Grandmother gathered, the way she positioned everyone like pieces on a chessboard. She planned this, all of it? She knew they wouldn't stop, so she made sure when they finally fell, they'd fall together. Emma hands me the journal. "Mom wanted you to have this," she said. She said maybe now you'll understand why some victories feel hollow. I opened the journal to find a letter addressed to me in grandmother's handwriting. "My dearest Ariel, if you're reading this, you've chosen justice over vengeance. But justice has its own price. The truth you fought so hard to expose was orchestrated long ago by hands just as stained as those you sought to punish, including mine." The front door opens again. Tina, bringing boxes for the last of the packing. She stops when she sees my face. "You okay?" she asks. I close the journal, feeling the weight of grandmother's final lesson. I thought I was fighting for the truth, but I was just the last move in someone else's game. "Does it matter?" David asked quietly. The truth still needed telling. Maybe he's right. Maybe the motivation behind justice matters less than justice itself. But as I help Emma carry her mother's things to her car, I can't help but wonder about the cost of righteousness, about the fine line between vengeance and vindication. Later, in what used to be my bedroom, I find one last surprise: a key taped behind a loose baseboard, with a note in Mom's handwriting. "For when you're ready to come home, some things are stronger than truth." I add it to the chain holding grandmother's locket, understanding finally what she meant in her last recording. Revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about protecting those who remain. But sometimes, in protecting them, we hurt them in ways we never intended. The house sells the next day. I use the money exactly as grandmother specified. Half to a trust for Mom's new baby, my sister-to-be, and half to a scholarship fund in Dad's name. Not for revenge or justice, but for healing. As I lock up for the last time, I see Mom across the street, watching. She doesn't wave or come over, but she doesn't turn away either. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe it's a start. I touch the key on my chain, feeling its potential. Some doors close forever, but others just wait for the right moment to open again. "Ready?" Tina asks from the car. I look at the house one last time, seeing not the battlefield it became, but the home it used to be, the home it might be again, someday, for someone else. "Yeah," I say, turning away. "I'm ready." The truth may have burned everyone it touched, but from those ashes, something new can grow, something stronger than revenge, more lasting than justice, something like hope.